Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special council meeting, committee meeting, June 7th, 2022. I'd like to welcome my fellow councillors, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Adams is at a province, but she's online. She will be able to speak and vote if she wants. And we have our engineer from Tech Services, Aaron McDonald, is with us tonight at the head table, and Linda Stevenson from Tech Services. We have our CAO, Rob Philpott, with us on the right. And I believe our Director of Finance is with us here, Kristen Dunsford. And we have members of the media, welcome, CBC, and I believe the Journal Pioneer and others. And we have MLA Lynn Lunn with us. And all our viewers on YouTube. Welcome to everybody to this special meeting. And just before I turn it over to the Chair of the Planning Board, a special welcome to everybody. It's great to see a crowd and people interested in democracy and interested in our city. This, as Councillor McFeely will explain, this initiative wasn't brought forward by the city. We were requested by a firm for this, and under the Municipal Act and the bylaws and regulations, we have to follow a process for it to get to Planning Board and then to Council for a vote. So at this time, I'd turn it over to the Chair of the Planning Board Committee, Councillor Brian McFeely.
Thank you, Your Worship, and with your permission, I'll remain seated here because I'll be much closer to the mic, and people, particularly on YouTube, can hear a whole lot better, they tell me. Welcome all that are on YouTube. This evening really is to continue the process of reviewing the application by Atlantic Human Services, Inc., a Moncton-based nonprofit organization for a proposed community residential facility for offenders who are ending periods of federal incarceration. This type of facility is perhaps more commonly known as a halfway house. So just to be clear, as the Mayor said, the city did not initiate this application. Having received it, we have a legal obligation to process it in accordance with legislation and our bylaws. To that point, the advertisements which were sent out to advise the public about this application referred to the proposed facility as a group home. This is technically the definition that is provided in our zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw, as it is currently written, does not differentiate between the sort of group homes we currently have in the community and the type of group home being proposed in this case. They all meet the current definition in the bylaw of a group home. So while the advertisement was technically correct, it is that the applicant proposes to operate a residential facility for offenders who are ending periods of federal incarceration, and it is perhaps more commonly known as the halfway house. This process has certainly pointed to a significant gap in the bylaw. It also highlights others, like the 60-meter notification that Council had debated in the past. But perhaps some of these need to be revisited. To this end, I will be asking that the bylaw be placed on the agenda for discussion at our July committee meetings. We can't do anything about the past, but we can certainly attempt to improve things for the future. Our original intent tonight was to hear from the public and to continue our process of gathering information while allowing stakeholders to weigh in on the public safety and aspects of this proposal and deal with it at a future meeting date. Staff would make a recommendation to Planning Board at that time, who will then vote on the recommendation. It's my understanding, and this really is surfaced today since the package went out on Friday, that staff now feel that they have completed their due diligence and are prepared to make a recommendation this evening. So our goal this evening is threefold, really, is to ensure that the citizens feel they have their voice heard. We've received countless telephone calls and emails. I think people have presented their position very, very, very well. I think Council and Planning Board understand that position. we will provide the opportunity this evening for people to provide additional information over and above the many emails that they've received, and as we move forward here. Council, I think, really understand the position of the public in relation to this application. And, you know, this is the opportunity for council to continue to learn and listen and learn. As we've said from the start, you know, we didn't initiate this process, but we have a legal obligation to work through the process in a way that respects the process and ensures that we are moving forward in a way that limits the risk of appeal. Because I don't think anybody, the proponent or the citizens, want this to go through an appeal process and have a decision reversed because we didn't follow the right process. So part of my role here as chair of planning board is to ensure that the process is fair to all parties, and that you know, that we get to a decision that's based on good process. So that's what our attempt will be tonight. So as things unfold here, we will seek planning board's agreement to move forward. We will review the report that council has received from staff. We won't be reading all the emails into the record. There's just too many of them. We'd be here till tomorrow night at this time. But we will acknowledge all the emails and telephone calls received that we have recorded. We're going to miss some people, I know we are, but we will list the names that we have heard from that we have recorded. There were so many that, and depending on where and when we got the call, we could have forgotten to record it. So I apologize for that in advance. And there certainly will be an opportunity for the public to speak. Councillor Ramsey?
I do. I just want to say one thing before we proceed, just so folks in the audience know that on our agenda last week was listed group home. We had no idea until we came into the meeting and the presentation happened. It was group home for us. The letters that were sent out was group home for you folks. So I just want to make that clear that we had no idea this was coming to us last week.
The next step here, then, I guess, is to move forward. Councillor Adams, you had indicated a friendly
Amendment?
change to the agenda there?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bryan. I was wondering about a friendly amendment and moving Wildon up, just because it's one item, and I just thought we might be able to move on with that, and then that would give us more time to discuss the Water Street East. I have not had any residents contact me regarding the Wildon, and the residents of Wildon have done the groundwork and have okayed and reviewed their project and their proposal with their neighbors.
Okay, so we'll ask for a motion for approval of the planning board agenda with the amendment. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconder.
So moved.
That's
Your worship. All those in favor say aye. And I should explain to the public that the voting members of planning board are Councillor Adams, who is on the phone, Councillor Ramsey, and the mayor, and I serve as chair. All councillors usually attend planning board meetings, and are certainly welcome and encouraged to ask questions and participate. But when it comes to the vote, those are the voting members. So with the approval of the agenda and the amendment, we will move quickly into number 4766 Wildon Street, a major variance and accessory building. And I'll read the recommendation. The purpose of the application is to allow a group home as a restricted use in the service commercial C2 zone. A restricted use requires council approval. Group home means a building for accommodating individuals, no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong, there we go. The major variance, 766 Wildon Street. Major variance, accessory building area. Supporting explanation. Purpose. The purpose of the variance is to allow an accessory building 24 by 30, 720 square feet or 67 square meters, where the allowable area of an accessory building is 600 square feet or 55 square meters. And you can see from the map there, the existing house and the proposed space to be utilized. The background, the city received a building permit application from Corey Rayner to build an accessory building, a detached garage. Upon review, staff determined the variance 20% would be required to allow the accessory building to be 67 square meters, 720 square feet, where 55 square meters, 600 square meters feet is permitted. To process a major variance, more than 10% subject to council approval, the development officer shall provide written notice to all assessed property owners within the radius of 30 meters, 98.4 feet from the subject lot, describing the variance sought and inviting written comments within 7 days. The application is reviewed by planning board. The planning board makes a recommendation to council, and council may approve, deny, or approve a variance less than requested. 20 letters were mailed to 11 property owners with a written comments submission deadline of June 6, 2022. No comments were received as of June 3rd, 2022, and the workday. The applicant did reach out to the abutting neighbors prior to applying for the variance. Report under section 7.2 of the zoning bylaw, variance application shall be considered by council, planning board, or the development officer as applicable against the following tests to justify a variance. All applicable criteria must be met. A, that the hardship is due to unique physical condition of the lot or property, including small lot size or regular lot size, existing building location on the property, or exceptional topography conditions, which make it impractical to develop in strict conformity with bylaw standards. Exceptional topographical conditions may include, but are not limited to, trees, slope of land, etc. Staff comment, yes, this variance request would meet this test. The proposed garage depth is 30 feet, 9.14 meters, which allows Mr. Rayner to park his truck with allowance to walk around the vehicle to access the remaining garage. Passenger trucks can be 23 feet or 7 meters in length. That the proposed variance meets the general intent of the official plan. Staff comment, yes, this variance request would meet this test. The variance meets the intent of the official plan. C, that the proposed variance meets the general intent of the zone. Staff comment, this variance request would meet this test. An accessory building is permitted in the zone R1. That the proposed variance would not impact negatively on adjacent properties or on the essential character of the surrounding neighborhood, including taking into consideration any comments from neighbors. Staff comment, yes, this variance request would meet this test. 20 letters were mailed to 11 property owners within 30 meters of the boundaries of the subject property. Comments from the adjacent property owners were due on or before June 6. No verbal or written comments were received from the notified property owners. Technical services staff review. City staff support the accessory building area variance application from Corey Rayner. As per section 7.3 of the zoning bylaw, the planning board shall make a recommendation to council on this application before it is approved or denied. The planning board recommendation, whether carried or defeated, will be brought forward for council for a final decision. Planning board recommendation, the application received from Kerry Rayner to allow an accessory building area of 720 square feet, 67 square meters, resulting in a 20% variance, be recommended to be approved by council. And if I could get a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Mayor Stewart. Any comments or discussions from? We're good? Everybody's good?
This is to go to council.
To go to council. I don't know if Mr. Rayner's in attendance, if he has anything to add.
I'm not sure if they're there, Brian. They weren't sure if they were able to make it, but they were going to tune in on YouTube.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody coming forward there, so I'm assuming they aren't in attendance, so we will move forward with the question. So the recommendation, I'll read it once more into the record. It's been moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Mayor Stewart, that the application received from Corey Rayner to allow an accessory building area of 720 square feet, resulting in a 20% variance, be recommended to be approved by council.
So that's to come to council tonight?
That's going to council at special meeting after planning board.
And all councillors will have a vote?
All
on that
councillors
besides
will
planning
have the opportunity to vote on that recommendation. So,
Okay.
all those in favor of planning board, say aye.
Fine.
Contrary? So motion is carried. So thank you for your indulgence, folks. We wanted to, I know Councillor Adams wanted to get that done quickly, early, in case the Rainers were here, so they wouldn't need to sit through all the rest of the meeting. So thank you very much, and we'll get back to where I started here anyways, I guess, in my... Okay, so we will move forward with the recommendation regarding 653 Water Street East restricted use application.
658?
658, excuse me. So the recommendations, supporting explanation. Purpose. The purpose of the application is to allow a group home in a restricted use in the service commercial zone. A restricted use requires council approval. Group home means a building for accommodating individuals who are not a family, live under supervision in a single housekeeping unit because of their special physical, social, and mental needs, and may also include a caretaker family. Background. An application was received from Atlantic Human Services, Inc., agent for property owner DDT Homecraft, Inc., for 658 Water Street East, PID number 73494, to allow a group home in a restricted use in the service commercial C2 zone. Development standards attached as Appendix A. The applicant is proposing to utilize the existing building for transitional housing for parolees. Atlantic Human Services, Inc. operate a 20-bed transitional housing facility in Moncton, New Brunswick. And the map is there that shows the subject property. The report. Under section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, when planning board reviews a restricted use, it has to consider the following general criteria as applicable. A, conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, the zoning bylaw. Staff comment. A group home use conforms with the bylaw subject to council approval for a restricted use approval in the C2 zone. The current zoning, service commercial C2, does not change. One of the purposes of the restricted use designation is to accommodate unique uses where rezoning would result in undesirable land uses due to as of right in that zone. The proposed restricted use is permitted in other zones. If the property were to be rezoned to one of these zones to accommodate the restricted use being sought, it would result in other undesirable land uses in the area. The specific uses can be achieved by designating the property as a restricted use, allowing only the restricted use. B, conformity with the official plan. Staff comment, the proposed restricted use would conform with the official plan as the land would remain as commercial. Should the restricted use cease to operate for 12 months, the restricted use lapses and the zoning remains as service commercial C2 and can be utilized as such. The restricted use is property specific. C, suitability of the site for the proposed development. Staff comment, this site is suitable for this development. As the applicant is utilizing an existing building, there is sufficient on-site parking for the proposed restricted use. D, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses. Staff comment, the property is zoned commercial, service commercial C2. The restricted use group home may be compatible with surrounding residential and commercial land uses. And there's a map there showing the subject property and the neighboring uses. E, any comments by residents and other interested parties. A public meeting was held on May 24th. The public meeting notice was advertised in the May 9th edition of The Guardian. 19 letters were mailed to 17 property owners. Staff comment, no written comments were received prior to the public meeting regarding this application. Joffer Therio provided an overview of the proposed intent for the restricted use. Brenda McQuarrie, 654 Water Street East, raised concerns over the restricted use impact on neighboring property values. She also expressed concerns about safety of her family, her property, and the surrounding neighbors. After the public meeting, Mrs. McQuarrie had further questions about the maximum number of beds that would be allowed and whether or not the applicant would have the ability to expand the building to create more beds. Mayor and Council also had questions for the applicant, which Mr. Theriot addressed at the public meeting. Following the public meeting, several residents reached out to staff, Mayor, and Council providing comment on restricted use application. The major concerns raised were mainly public safety and impact on property values of the properties in the area. The comments received are attached to this report as Appendix B. And at the time of writing, there's been many more since of this report, late last week. 16 emails and a list of 40 residents' names had opposed the restricted use, as well as 2 petitions were submitted, and both are attached as Appendix C and D, and I believe those have over 400 names attached to them. The development officer received calls from Barbara McCausland on May 30th, 2022, and Denise Murchison on May 31st, 2022, requesting clarity and explanation of the process going forward. Next steps after the public meeting, and express their opposition to the restricted use. Mayor and Council also received a number of calls from residents regarding this restricted use application. And I intend to list those people after we finish reading the report here. F, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parkland for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Staff comment, the existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services can accommodate this restricted use. The Wilmot Community Center Park is located within 300 meters of the subject property. The property has existing on-site parking. G, impact on the development on pedestrian vehicular access and safety and public safety generally. Staff comment, the property has an existing access on Water Street East. Pedestrians have access to the existing sidewalk on south side of Water Street East. Public safety was raised as a concern by several residents in the area. Police services are reviewing the matter of public safety and will present their findings and comments to Council prior to Council making the decision on the restricted use. H, compatibility of the development of the with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Staff comment, the development is compatible with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. I, impact on the city's finances and budget. Staff comment, this application does not impact city finances and budget, and contrary to some of the emails that I certainly received, there was a sense out there that the city was getting some kind of remuneration from the federal government for that. That is just not correct. It's incorrect. Other matters as specified in this bylaw. Staff comment, there's nothing there. K, other matters as considered relevant. Staff comment, the applicant would be subject to a building permit to change the building use. Staff was unable to determine whether or not the restricted use would create a negative impact on neighboring property values. The subject property is assessed at $231,300 and is currently listed at $485,000 as per the real estate listing. The issues of public safety were addressed by the applicant during the public meeting, and Mr. Terrio offered to meet with the McCrories to alleviate their concerns regarding public safety. The west and south side of the properties has a mature tree line. A designated smoking area will be provided for the residents at the rear of the building. The applicant is intended to have 8 beds maximum and has no intention of expanding the building itself. And there's some pictures and maps there showing the south property line. So the report that we had last week, the staff review was ongoing, and additional information is required prior to staff making a recommendation to planning board. I understand that in the interim, staff have now informed us today that they are in the position now, they've done their due diligence and now are in the position to make a recommendation.
The other report is there from the front page of the.
So I'll read the police report into
Correct.
the record. Okay, so police comments. Dated June 7th, 2022. As Chief of Police, I would have a number of concerns around the proposed facility at 658 Water Street East by Atlantic Human Services. First, as a residential facility for parolees, the police service would have concerns around the convictions that generated the federal sentence for the potential occupants of the facility. In order for an offender to serve time in a federal facility, there has to be a sentence of at least 2 years. Any criminal activity garnering a sentence of this nature would have to have been significant and can range anywhere on the scale of severity from homicides, sex offenses, down to property crimes at lower end of the scale. Second, how manageable have clients been during their time in custody? How compliant have they been with institutional rules? Have there been internal disciplinary actions handed out? Eventually, almost everyone serving a federal sentence gets released on mandatory parole, regardless of their behavior while in custody. For those that are not compliant inside the institution, how manageable will they be outside the institution? Next, recidivism. I'm not even sure I can pronounce that, but anyways, that's a large number of offenders who receive federal sentences have had numerous convictions within the justice system prior to being given a federal sentence. Most offenders would have had several convictions prior to receiving federal time that were served at a provincial jail. Further, there is a significant percentage of people who will remain in conflict with the justice system after serving a federal sentence. Will those future victims be in our community? Anecdotally, as a police service, we have had dealings with many parolees who have been placed in the Summerside area over the years. Some have successfully completed their sentences, while others have violated release conditions and committed further criminal offenses. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, the impact on the community's perception of public safety. It is widely recognized that the community's perception of how safe their city is relies not on data or statistics, but how safe one feels in their community. In this case, the citizens in the surrounding area of this proposed facility appear to have spoken loud and clear in that they do not and will not feel safe with their facility in their neighborhood. For reasons ranging from there being a school bus stop right outside of the facility that is used by students from K to 12, again, there could be sex offenders housed in this facility. From elder persons in the neighborhood who have expressed no longer feeling safe in their home at just the thought of the facility, fears of property crime, break-ins, etc., to business owners expressing fears of being victimized. Certainly in reference to public safety, one needs to keep in mind are staffing levels in order to be able to police this type of facility to keep our citizens safe. To be clear, our police service supports those in their efforts and journey to rehabilitation. However, based on the above noted factors, we feel that there could be a better location sought for a facility of this type that can reduce public opposition and concern. And that is signed by J. David Poirier, Chief of Police, Summerside Police Services. So, coming into late this afternoon, we didn't have that recommendation, so it was highly unlikely we'd have been able to vote tonight because we didn't have all the information we needed to make a decision. I believe that planning board is now, with this information, prepared to vote this evening on this and make a recommendation to council, and then council has a special council meeting immediately following planning board that we will consider a recommendation from planning board, and that all council will vote on, and we'll have a decision made tonight. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. As we always do at planning board, with the full permission and unanimous permission of planning board, we allow members of the public to speak, or the proponent to speak if they wish. And so I would seek planning board's agreement that we can open the floor for the public if they wish to say a few words. I guess let's get that agreement first, and then I have a couple other comments before we do open up the floor. So
Fine here.
we're good there. Councillor Adams, I can't see your hand, so are you in agreement that we open the floor?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, thank you. So we have that agreement that we need to open the floor, and this is not, depending on this situation, we always do this. Having said that and opened the floor, we've received, and I want to read these into the record before we do go to the public, the names of people that have expressed opposition to this, and many have raised very valid points. Council has received all of this. I'm not sure how much more we need to receive to get us to making the decision that's in front of us tonight. But we will open the floor if there's people that feel they need to provide additional information before we can get to the vote. So with that, I'm just going to read very quickly into the record, and I apologize if we've missed names here, because I know we have missed some. And if you called me when I was in the car, for instance, I may not have, the chief of police is here, so I may not have jotted down the name while I was driving. So we may have missed you. Anyways, we received either emails, telephone calls, or messages. I'm not going to differentiate between the two, from Susan Jeffrey, Matt Vaughn, Keith Tanton, Rocky Arsenal, Corden Bigelow, Denise Murchison, Chris DeRoche, Evelyn Marshall, Mark McNeil, Alexander Martin, Carl Delaney, Ralph McKinnon, Brenda McQuarrie, Angie McCardle, Gladys Wright, Peter Tanton, Susan Tanton, Cindy McKendrick, Peter Ramsey, Mario Fizette, Susan McFadgen, Louise Daw, Enos Hicks, Barry Copeland, Neil Smith, Rena McGuinness, Dave Vokey, Michael Goody, Atisha McLeod, Brian and Kathy Hemphill, Floyd O'Brien, Paul Higgins, Jason Gallant, Candace Rogers, Val Rogers, Sing Lam, Julie Walkers, Alan and Barbara Bonus, Pauline Frost, Jonathan and Janet Sharp, Deborah and Kevin Steves, and Eric, I don't have a last name, Brenda McQuarrie, Phyllis Baglow, Denise Murchison, again, repeating some names here, Glenn Hodge, Pat Now Poirier, Sean Branbury, I may have the wrong name there, Herb Baglow, Joan Lafergie, Arnold Blacker, Ernie Gallant, Karen Christensen, Kendra Griffin, Rocky Arsenault, Susan Tanton, Raiden Murphy, Keith Tanton, double, Debbie Armitage, Arlene Gillian, Grant Carson, Devin Hardy, Windsor Corney, Michelle Askew, Brian Arsenault, Ira Strawman, Ken and Sheila Kenny, Joan Woodard, Cheryl and Greg Weeks, Paul Matheson, Dot Peddle, Donna Gallant, Joyce Morrison, Teresa Gallant, John Robertson, Jordan Bigelow, Hannah Cormier Bigelow, Debbie Weavers, Hal Weavers, Stephen Murchison, Sarah Murchison, Bev Matthews, New York, Tammy McGregor, Billy McGregor, Darcy Gallant, Melissa Noonan Gallant, Travis Gallant, Jania Gallant, Tyler Doucette, Robin Gale Doucette, Chris DeRoche, Alana DeRoche, Miles Clark, Shelley Clark, Tina McGinnis, Philip Sullivan, Leanne Fullerton Sullivan, Dwight Duguay, Tammy Saunier, Chris McCrone, Trent Farish, Lorianne Farish, Rick Johnson, Shelley Johnson, Jody Sharkey, Nick Sharkey, Angela Wade, Mary McPherson, I think I said that already, Leslie Thompson, Kimball Thompson, Linda Cameron, Blair Waugh, Scott and Gloria Tolman, Cecil and Christian Scott, Mary and Greg Nicole, Velma Rogers, Amanda DeRoche, Jim Adams, Ruth Rundle, Arlene Woodworth, Naomi Harvey, Jeremy Alexander, Brendan Donnie Gallant, Stafford's on St. Clair, Joan Woodward, Lois Bagelow, Wendy and Brian Marsapoint, Trudy White, Marion Daly, Sandra Hart, Charlene McDonald, Julie Walker, Ruth Rundle, Sing Lam, Rodney Moore, Michelle Moore, Nick DeRoche, Natasha Adams, David Adams, Megan Brown, Becky Toser Ferguson, Elva Rogers, and I think that's all that we have recorded unless... Pardon me? Oh, Deborah Steves. Did I not say Deborah? I said Deborah. Yeah. I know other councillors have received.
Brian,
Oh, Carrie?
did you want me to finish I have a list of a few more here that I sent in.
Yep, no, we
Okay,
should acknowledge them.
And if they're doubles, my apologies. Barry Copeland, Arlene Woodworth, Donnie and Brenda Gallant, Faye and Wendell Feener, Nancy and Leroy McKinnon, John Ramsey, Amanda and Joel Arsenault, Diane Tucker, Brenda Weeks, Eileen Taylor, Dana and Kevin Brown, Lori Mills, Amanda and Mitchell DeRoche, John and Cindy McNally, Ray and Milton Montgomery, Richard and Nancy Rogerson, Mary and Greg Nichols, I think that might be a double, Scott and Gloria Tallman, Christine and Cecil Scott, Laura Montgomery, Ernie McDonald, Brandy Francis, Jody and Daryl Ellsworth, Nick and Lori Storty, Marion Reel, Lisa Murphy, Boyce Murphy, Ilanka Guardsmith, Alan and Sandra Ripley, Marjorie Geis, and Cindy Robichaud.
Thank you.
And the two last ones I received were Reg and Cheryl Cody.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Adams. And the list that I had was as of about 4 o'clock, so if some came in after that, I haven't looked at my emails since then. So it seems to me I've been looking at emails and answering phone calls 24 hours a day for the last number of days. And other councillors have given me the list, their list as well. So I really wanted to read those out because you people took the time to write an email or call us or leave a message or message us, whatever you did. And I just thought it was appropriate that, you know, that should be acknowledged. So, you know, we thank you for that because a lot of, you know, the information that we receive certainly goes to inform council for our decision. So thank you very, very much. So with that, as I said earlier, I think council feels that we have the information that we need to go to a decision. Having said that, I don't want to preclude anybody that really has something to say that over and above what they said in an email or in a telephone conversation. We would never stop somebody from having their say. So we would open the floor to the public and would ask that folks try to keep, we don't know how many people want to speak, so if we can keep the comments and make the points in a timely fashion within a couple of minutes each, that would be great, so that we can move on and get to decisions. So with that, the floor is open, and we would ask you as you come to the mic to please state your name and address so we have that for the public record. So thank you.
My name is Barry Copeland, and I live at 82 St. Clair Street, and my wife is helping me with my hearing aids. Thank you. Where would I be without her help? And as Chairman and committee members, I thank you for permitting me to speak, and Councillors Adams and McFeely and the CAO for their prompt reply to my emails. I also want to thank the person who dropped a note off at my front door. It enlightened me as what was going on as I was out of the country when this started. A lot of what I was going to say has been covered. I just want to make a couple of points. I looked at the bylaws for Southford, Cornwall, Charlottetown. They all have allowances for group homes, but every one of them has a restricted number. 4 in Charlottetown, 6 in Cornwall, 6 in Stratford. All require 24-hour supervision. The council, as you said, Mr. McFeely, need to do some work on the bylaws. Secondly, I just want to speak to the inmates. To the best of my knowledge, PEI has very few people serving time in federal prison. I highly doubt that 8 of them would be eligible for parole at any one time. Therefore, those convicts must be from other than PEI. Do we need problems from other provinces? I don't think so. And third, I'm not opposed to the reintegration for sure, but I think when subjects like this that come up that could be highly contentious, that a small ad in the Guardian and the Journal Pioneer and notice to local residents is not enough. I think you need to find a way to inform us of these controversial things, such as a write-up in our electric bill. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. Denise Murchison.
Well, Brian, if I knew what your motion was, I wouldn't have to go through this.
Not telling you till you
Can't
speak.
tell me. Okay. So therefore, I'm going to go through this. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. And
I need your
My
name and
sorry.
address, please.
name, Denise Murchison, and my address is 629 Murphy Street, Summerside, PEI. Good evening, Mayor and councillors, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And thank you for all of you who have showed up for support here tonight. Thank you. Some of this will be repeated, Brian, because there's stuff that I've learned that is not addressed. I strongly object to the proposal to approve restricted use for the property at 658 Water Street East. Based on comments and questions asked in May 24th special meeting and in the community over the past week, I believe that some misunderstandings exist that I would like to question. A comment in the May 24th meeting was made that Summerside will actually be safer as a result of introducing a federal halfway house, as parolees who are supported and closer to their families are more likely to succeed. Looking closer, this could not be further from the truth. Mr. Terrio of Atlantic Human Service, Inc. himself acknowledged that introducing a federal halfway house has some risk to the community. Some believe that this facility will support primarily Prince Edward Islanders, as Mr. Copeland just said, from federal prison into society. Percentage-wise, few islanders are sentenced to federal custody. Inevitably, this halfway house would bring into Summerside men from across Canada who have committed very serious offenses, who otherwise may never have come to PEI. Some believe that this facility would be no different from St. Eleanor's House on South Drive, which is a residential facility for men who are receiving mental health and addictions treatment, and that St. Eleanor's House has had no real trouble, so to speak of. Not true. Firstly, St. Eleanor's House is operated by the government of Prince Edward Island and is managed by qualified health PEI employees. This proposed facility is a private business. St. Eleanor's House has in fact had serious issues. A resident has been charged with stabbing a staff member just last November. And in the past, some federal parolees have been returned to federal prison for violation of parole. So, some federal parolees have been back here near their families. Unlike St. Eleanor's House, this private proposed new halfway house will be home to men who have committed more serious and often multiple repeated crimes from the federal prison system, not the provincial, the federal. Mr. Terrio has asserted that the risk to safety in the community posed by this halfway house is very low. This is simply not true. When taking into consideration our small community size and a 2019 publication on the Correctional Services of Canada site, this publication reports on reoffense rates of individuals following release from federal custody. This study reported that 24.2% of men released from federal prisons will be reconvicted of new offenses within 2 years of their release from prison. That is almost 1 in 4. This means that 2 of 8 men living in the proposed halfway house at any given time will have a strong likelihood of committing new crimes within 2 years. Sometimes these crimes are committed while on parole. To quote Mr. Terrio, his Moncton facility has had issues with 15% of parolees violating their conditions, as well as 6.5% walking away and being at large in the community. These are real risks. Will video surveillance, sign-in logbooks, and curfews make a difference? Let's consider, what will this mean to Summerside? I would like to read from one of the many letters of concern included in this meeting package. This should help you understand the real potential outcome of approving this proposal. Quotes, "One of my neighbors lived in another province a few years ago. Her home was on the same street as a halfway house. Her home was broken into and she was victimized by one of the residents of the halfway house," unquote. Are we prepared in Summerside to knowingly and willingly assume this new risk to our community? Mr. Terrio shared that he primarily recruits people with degrees from a local university. We looked at a website where Mr. Terrio advertises his job postings in Moncton. These showed a wage of $15 to $16 per hour for positions of halfway house worker and caseworker. Is he really able to attract individuals with degrees? He actually used the word degreed individuals when he replied to you, Barb. These show but is he really able to attract individuals with degrees who are qualified to be responsible for men who have committed federal offenses at this wage? Summerside is clearly not a suitable location for this facility. We know that some of these men will pose a risk for committing new crime. Does our small city have the policing capacity for increased monitoring and responding to other potential incidents? Mr. Terrio acknowledged that there was a potential high-risk offenders, that they could be housed at the proposed halfway house in Summerside. He did. So there are potential high-risk offenders. This could include pedophiles who cannot be cured. They can be managed, but they cannot be cured. This poses a real threat to our children. One of the letters of concern pointed out that pedophiles present as friendly and caring people. Are we really going to jeopardize the safety of our children by allowing a potential convicted pedophile to have such close proximity and access to them? At the school bus directly across the street? At summer activities at the Wilma Community Center? At the playgrounds nearby? At the College of Piping that hosts activities for young people? At Three Oaks Senior High School, that's 2.1 kilometers away? On the bike routes to school from Lafergie subdivision? Awareness of the potential risks posed from men living at this halfway house will clearly alter the way of life for our young families in this area. Many have already said that they would no longer be able to allow their children to be unaccompanied at the bus stop across the street or play at the parks in our area. Other parents have stated that children would no longer be able to bike, rollerblade, or even walk around town. The majority of residents in the immediate area are senior citizens, many of whom live alone and are widowed. In the past week, I have listened to many of these seniors express a fear of being alone and in close proximity to this proposed halfway house. Some elderly men say they'd be unable to defend themselves if they were attacked in their own homes. They are feeling vulnerable. The Confederation Trail is at the end of the street across from this proposed halfway house. The parolees will be out and about. Will we be able to continue to walk the trail alone and feel safe? Wondering if the man we pass on the trail is a violent offender or not? Many people have commented they have carefully selected their homes based on Summerside being a safe place to live. News of this proposal has caused alarm. People are fearful, and we are worried about losing our sense of safety and security. Already, many have reported losing sleep and increased anxiety and are talking about moving to other communities. And how many Summerside residents have been victims of violence and of people that would possibly come back to this halfway house? We don't know that, but I'm sure there's some. How will they feel if this is brought into Summerside? A recommendation from this planning board to approve this special restricted use application that will allow for PEI's very first federal halfway house poses a real risk to our present way of life here in Summerside. A risk to our present way of life here in Summerside. As the first of its kind in PEI, we can't fully appreciate the extent of the full impact and the risks to public safety. What will we do when the unthinkable happens? Some may judge the strong community reaction to this proposal as a simple case of not in my backyard. That we do not believe in supporting people in trying to make a fresh start at life. This is not the case. Everyone deserves a chance to live well. This includes individuals who have served their sentences for past crimes and the residents of Summerside. In this case, the benefits for a relatively small number of federal offenders and a few low-paying, high-stress jobs do not outweigh the cost of a very real loss of safety and security for Summerside residents. We need to balance supporting the needs of federal offenders in rejoining society with the need to protect vulnerable children, seniors, and citizens as a whole. This is not a suitable location to balance these needs. I urge you to end the worry of hundreds of residents tonight and set our minds at ease by approving a recommendation to reject this special restricted use application for 658 Water Street East. What we're talking about here is not a group home. It is a halfway house. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Murchison. So we've heard from Mr. Copeland and Mrs. Murchison, and certainly we don't want to restrict anybody else from coming and saying a few words, but if it's new information and information that we haven't already heard, we welcome that. So the floor is yours, sir.
Charles Brown, 737 Flamingo Drive. I'm just curious now, is this supposed to be manned 24 hours a day with personnel? Because the hospitals don't have workers, the manors don't have workers, everybody's trying to hire. Where is he getting all these workers?
We don't
We
have
can't
the-
find workers. So where is he going to get workers to man a facility where you need people 24 hours a day to be there? Yeah. And also, so we say, not my backyard, and we win. So any of you counselors want to put it in your backyard? Any of you? Anyone want to step up? When we say we don't want it, well, who wants to step up? Which one? Who wants it in their backyard?
That's not a fair
That's not
question,
the
sir.
issue tonight, sir.
Well, it is the issue tonight. We don't want it, so we'll give it to anyone here. And why was that location picked?
The issue tonight, sir, is we have an application that came into the city. The city didn't choose the application.
But why that location?
I have no idea.
Why
that
not the
was.
young offenders building that's empty?
I don't, yeah, I don't know that, sir.
And where's, maybe
Yeah.
Bobby Morrissey should be here
No,
to tell us why the location,
Yeah.
why the federal government decided this.
I don't know that, sir. I know that
So should Bobby Morrissey have been invited? Was he invited?
it's a,
But it's still tied in with the federal government,
Yeah.
right?
it's a public meeting and we don't, I mean,
But shouldn't he be like a special speaker?
oh. Don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that. Thank you. Okay,
Am I allowed to say something, guys? How's that sound?
you're certainly allowed to say something. And if it's new information that we haven't heard already, you're welcome to it. Yeah.
I don't understand how this all,
You need your name and address, please.
Jonathan Vickerson, 236 South Drive. I don't understand how this all even came to light. When you want to open a business, you need to get a change of occupancy. You need to do a whole pile of paperwork that I have been through. I have been drugged through the mud on paperwork, and I have no clue how these guys got this far along without anybody finding out about it. It makes no sense. The Municipal Government Act. Do we know what the Municipal Government Act is? Councilors, did you read it like I asked you to months ago? Did you?
I've read the Municipal
you
Government
read it?
Act. Yes, I have.
Then you are aware of the power of what these people can do to stop you. And I will let every one of them know. And every one of them can write a letter to the ombudsperson, and every one of them can stand up to you, because it looks like they already are. You have yourself a good day.
Yeah, well, thank you for your comments. We're working through a process here, a process that's defined, that we need to work through. I think generally people respect that we have a process that we need to work through, and that we will ensure that the process is followed appropriately. So if there is other comments, certainly.
Hi, my name is Marianne LaFleur. I live at 561 Notre Dame in East Side. I'm actually new to the area, but I'm here to talk to you about my experience. We lived beside we had a beautiful neighborhood, and we had lots of children. Suddenly, they put one of those group homes into the neighborhood. Within 6 months, the kids were terrorized. Girls could not walk down the street. The crime rate, and I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, and the crime rate in Hamilton in the last 3 years has gone up to 76%. And there are so many group homes, quote, which actually turn into, like, their drug addictions. There's all kinds of sexual predators. We have all kinds. So when I heard today from a friend of mine that told me that you guys were going to try to get a group, don't do it. Don't do it for your children. Don't do it for anybody, because I'm sorry, there are places they could put these people. And like you said, if it's not coming from PEI people, why do you have to bring in criminals from other places? Like, you can get criminals from Hamilton, and it's really bad. You read the statistics in Hamilton, and it's gone, the crime rate is crazy. People are scared to to be in their own homes. They're getting mutilated. Look in Toronto, the group homes they have there. Don't do it here. I came to this place because it's peace and it's loving, and people are so kind. And when I'm finding out that people are going to be scared again, it brings back horror stories. I've seen 5-year-old kids that were groomed because there was pedophiles, there was druggies. My own kids ended up sitting on one of those homes, smoking drugs. It was a big fight I had. So please, do not allow this to happen in this city. Don't let it happen in PEI. This is a beautiful province, one of the best. Please, do not have that happen. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think council has the information, the planning board has the information that it needs to move to decision. I certainly don't want to stop anybody from speaking, but you know, we've got volumes of information, comments, and opinions, and I know I've read them all. I assume other councillors have read them all, and so with your indulgence, and if there's nobody else that has a few words to say, perhaps we'll move forward with the process so question for Director Aaron, if we've read the report from police into the record. That was the piece that was missing in order for staff to make a recommendation. So I guess just to be sure we understand that what the staff recommendation here is.
If I can just say one more thing first. I talked to the applicant today, just to back out previous conversations where we weren't anticipating having the full information for this evening, so they weren't aware of that as well, to keep abreast of the process. So when we had discussions and felt we were going to have that additional information to you guys today, we reached out to the applicant to advise them that the additional information will be brought forward to committee today, and they may or may not be in a position to do a vote. We won't know until the committee meets and reviews all the information. They weren't going to be able to get over to the meeting today, but they did want to advise that if the committee had any questions, we also advised that a lot of information and comments had come back in through various sources from the general public, and he wanted just to know that if you had any questions after hearing all the information, they would be able to provide you written responses if need be, and I just said I would pass that information on to you guys as well.
Thank you very much.
Was he advised that it was going to be on YouTube and he could watch it?
Yes, I did say that.
So he may be watching.
Full or live or follow up. We did advise that, yes, for the last couple of years we've been putting stuff on YouTube, and we've continued to do so. And in summary, I guess, Councillor, is the report was compiled by typically numerous staff, and as you mentioned, the majority of issues that were brought forward, there was a number of items that we were covered off from the criteria, and the larger ones seemed to be around public safety, I think was the category, I think it was G. And so the general consensus from all staff that's reviewed or contributed to the report supported what Chief Poirier had said there as far as not recommending it for this location.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, he made it quite clear, like again today, that the city didn't go after this. It was their application that came in.
I think that hopefully, Your Worship, that council has a minute to speak here.
Council will,
We absolutely should be,
Wait.
have an opportunity.
council will have an opportunity when it goes to the council meeting for a vote.
Well,
Everybody have an opportunity.
You mean later this evening?
Yeah, have an opportunity
Okay.
to speak to the
All
motion.
right, just so, because people
Yeah.
need to know what we've been
Yeah.
through on this, okay.
Yeah, and certainly council will all have an opportunity to speak, so. Anyways, we have a recommendation from staff that enables us to go forward, and that recommendation is that the application not be approved. Given that, is there any comments or questions from planning board before we move to a motion?
So you vote to get it to full council here right after this meeting?
Yeah.
Just to clarify,
Terry,
just
anything?
to clarify, Councillor McPhee, the planning board is making a recommendation
Recommendation to
to
council.
council, not
Yes,
just
that's
moving it
correct.
forward. Correct. Just
That's
so-
correct,
Thanks.
yes. Councillor Adams, any comments before we put a
No,
motion on the
Brian,
floor here?
No, just as long as everybody understands that this isn't a vote to approve or deny it, we're moving it on to council where it can be voted on. So, as long
Exactly,
as- as long as-
exactly. So the proposed
residents-
motion, excuse me, Councillor
sorry,
Adams?
Yeah, as long as all our residents are in the know and everybody realizes, then I'm good.
So the process basically is we're about to make a recommendation here that it will go to council, and that will happen immediately following.
Whether planning board recommends or not, it goes to
Goes
council.
to council, yeah.
Planning board will either recommend that it go to council or recommend that it doesn't go to council. That's our, and then council
still goes to
still,
it
then
still
council
goes to
still has a vote, just so everybody's aware. Okay,
So can it be a negative
complicated.
recommendation or a positive? Or
Well, there will be
vote?
a positive motion, and I'll read what the proposed motion may be. And we need a seconder, or a mover and a seconder. So that proposed motion is that the planning board support the recommendation made by staff and to recommend that this be sent to a special council meeting for a formal vote.
Right. Right tonight.
Is there a mover and a seconder for that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Ramsey. So I'll read the motion one more time. Planning board to support the recommendation by staff and to recommend that this be sent to special council meeting for a formal vote. That was moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. If there's no further questions, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Councillor Adams?
I,
We have a unanimous decision by planning board to support the recommendation of staff to go to council. Yes. Yeah. So, thank you, people, for coming, and thank you.
But the vote, just before they leave, the vote hasn't been held yet.
No, we're going to move into a special council meeting here I'm going to adjourn planning board,
Okay,
and then we're going to go into a special council
but
meeting.
it'll be right now sort of thing.
Yeah. The mobile sales establishment item on planning board. There's no documentation on that? Pardon me? So there's nothing there? No. So there's nothing to deal with there. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, we're going to go ahead now with the motion. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I'm calling for a motion to adjourn planning board.
Okay,
Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by your worship. So planning board is now adjourned, your worship, and the floor is yours.
okay,
to you.
we'll call a special council meeting to order, and we'll turn it back over to Mr. McFeely, the chair, for the motion to be voted upon.
Okay, your worship, I will stand up for the motion here, and I will speak to the motion afterwards. So the motion, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Be it resolved that council supports the planning board recommendation at the planning board meeting of June 7th, 2022, and that this application is hereby denied.
So it's been moved by the planning board chair, Councillor Brian McFeely, and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. You have all heard the motion? You've all heard, but you had mentioned about comments. This is the time for councillors to comment.
So now is the time for comments. Your worship, as the mover.
Just happen to have one.
As the mover of the
Councillor Ramsey.
motion, as the mover of the motion, I just want to take a minute. It's the first time in this whole process that I felt free to talk. And the process really restricts us from council from expressing an opinion on any of these things until this point in time when there's a motion on the floor, because it's all open to appeals and things. So I want to assure, and most of you are from Ward 7 here tonight, and the vast majority of you, I suspect, that I've always felt that it's certainly my duty and my responsibility to you to represent your views at council, and fully intended to do so on this particular issue. This has been a very difficult issue for many of you. I know that. I know it's caused lots of sleep for people. I know it's caused you to use your time on things that you probably weren't really enjoying using your time on, getting out and soliciting support for this. And what I find really interesting about this whole process is that it was a groundswell. There wasn't an orchestrated kind of a response to this. It was a groundswell from several different perspectives of the community that brought to bear certainly the opinion that we all share, and I share your opinion. So I want to thank you for taking the time to get involved in making this happen, and certainly it was always my intent that you would have my support, as you always have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McFeely. Okay, the lights have gone on. I believe Councillor, who was first here, Bruce? Or,
Yep.
Pardon?
I was on
Councillor
there first.
McDougall,
Bruce,
Councillor
I-
Ramsey?
Yeah, I was. And I'm anxious to speak because this has been very, very difficult, and a terrible week for you people, and a terrible week for us. And, you know, when someone comes in and they present to us, we have to listen to them and we have to follow the process, and that's what we did. And there are a number of you that can be my campaign managers, I'll tell you that right now. As Brian said, everything happened really fast, and you know, you always had my support. The minute I heard last week what we were coming into, I got an email at the end of the day just before our meeting. I thought it was a group home. I read the email, I realized it's not a group home. I made some phone calls to Moncton. As you know, I did the investigating that you did because I wanted to know what we were up against. And it didn't take much investigating through the week. This is my hometown as well, all council. Every one of us were very concerned. We're very concerned for you, we're very concerned for us. It's not a very good position to be in when folks don't realize what we're up against and how we do things to follow the act and to do things right and to not share too much information until we can. And that's very difficult because otherwise we'll end up with an appeal, and we didn't want that. We wanted this to just get settled, and I'm really glad, and the mayor really wanted it to be finished this evening. He didn't want you guys worrying any longer. We didn't want to worry any longer. So with that, thank you everybody for coming in, and thank you for all the support that you give council, and we've worked really, really hard as a council, and I really was hoping that you guys didn't feel like we'd throw you under the bus at this late stage. Okay. Thank you.
I believe Councillor McDougall was next, and then Councillor Duran, I believe.
Yeah, I think Councillor Adams had sent me a message.
Okay.
She'd like to, so I'll go after
Councillor
her.
Adams, you're still online?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. I know it wasn't only Ward 7, Ward 8, but it was the whole city. And if you didn't get up and speak tonight, that doesn't matter. You're there, and I think that speaks volumes. Your words aren't needed. You're there, and that's what matters. The thing that really stuck out whenever we were getting so many emails, texts, calls, Facebook messages was nobody ever said that they didn't want this in their backyard. It was constantly, I don't want this for my city, and I don't want this for our residents or our children. So I don't think once that anybody was selfish and said, I don't want this, it's we don't want this for us. And it's unfortunate that sometimes things like this have to happen for us all in neighborhoods to come together. But what I seen happen in the neighborhoods across the city and even in Ward 8 was nothing short of amazing. They hit the pavement running and they left no mailbox empty. So I just wanted to say thank you. And as hard as it was, whenever I was talking and emailing back and messaging back, not to give my opinion, I respected hearing yours. And I really thank you for your patience because everybody was so respectful in giving their opinion, and they most realized the pressure that we were under. So thank you so much for supporting us.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Okay. I believe Councillor McDougall is next, and then Duran, and then Deputy Member Coleman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like Councillor Adams, appreciate everybody coming here. It's pretty easy to copy a letter and send it in an email, but it really means a lot when the public shows up. It means you're really concerned. And this was a topic that just festered right across the city. I walk every morning down on the boardwalk, and I stop every morning through 2 or 3 people, and they expressed their concerns. And whether you went to Sobeys or Superstore, it was always a topic of conversation. I received a number of phone calls that asked not to have their name listed, and I honor that they had some great information, but wish to be anonymous, so we will do that. And but it is something that You know, normally we're sitting here with nobody in the audience, so it's really nice to see people. But anyway, I thank you for coming out and thank you for the support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fish. Councillor Duran, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just start by, was it Mr. Brown? I wanted to answer your question when you were up here, and I couldn't, but I'll answer it now. I don't want it in my backyard. I don't want it in your backyard either. I don't want it in anybody's backyard. You know, I think we're all for rehabilitation and reintegration, but I think we've been clear, and you were all, whether you're here, whether you're listening, or whether you've called in or emailed, I just hope it's obvious that we've heard you loud and clear, and like I just said, like we're all for rehabilitation and reintegration, but the message tonight is it's just not the kind of facility that's welcome here. So I hope you're all able to make it home happy tonight, and hope you can all get some sleep. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Deputy Mayor McCollum.
Thank you, Your Worship, and fellow councillors and members in the gallery. Thank you so much for being here tonight, because it does make a difference when people become very engaged. And as Councillor Bryan has said tonight, all of the emails, the phone calls, and the messages, I'm sure all of our phones are jam-packed with calls that we really tried to get back to people, but there were so many. I think what makes it really hard is that when we are elected, it is the people, the residents, that put us in this role. And in all of the calls and the information when we talk to people, what makes it difficult, as we've heard tonight, we have taken an oath of office, which means that we have to be held very accountable for saying anything or anything that's of a confidential nature when it becomes to a process as such as what we were in. And so for us, it's more important that we close this and we open these up and really listen to what people have to say. Our residents, all of the information coming in, our police report that came in this evening, all of those things really help us make a much better decision because we get the information that we need. And in order to go through that process, I know sometimes it's frustrating for residents because they think, why don't you just vote? Why don't you just make up your mind? But I think it's really important that you know that when we are trying to do our job, we want to do it the right way. And that's what happened tonight. Democracy in process, and people being engaged, and people getting information back and forth. That's what makes it work. And everybody was a part of that process. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being engaged, because we learn every time. And as Councillor Bruce has said, many meetings, we're here alone. We don't hear from our residents unless it's something that really is important to everyone. So thank you for that. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that when people are engaged, that lets us know that, you know, it's so important to listen. So thank you so much, and we do hope that there's some stress relief tonight and that you will sleep well. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe Councillor Snow, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just start by thanking everybody for coming out tonight and expressing how they felt over the last days. As many have said, it's been a long few days for us as well. As a councillor, personally, and I know fellow councillors feel the same way, nobody wants to see our residents concerned and worried and feeling unsafe in the community we live in. So being able to address this in a timely manner was very important. I do want to speak to a few things that I think are important for us as a council moving forward. So over the last number of years, this is my first term on council, and one thing I've noticed is we get these notices going out and they're within a 60-meter range, and I've often said that, you know what, 60 meters doesn't take into effect all of it. It might take in some of the applications we receive, but it's pretty obvious that this was a community-based issue. 19 letters were mailed out. We have a Wilmot Park that was 300 meters away. So when you visualize Heckbert Studios and Wilmot Park, when we do take this to planning board, as Councilor McFeely asked for it to be put on that, or bylaw and policy review, sorry, let's keep that in mind when we're thinking of the area we give notice to, because it's really unfair. And I'll just close with the chief's letter in saying a community's perception on how safe their city is relies not only on data or statistics, but how safe one feels in their community. And I hope and pray that after we get through with this process, depending on how my fellow councilors vote, but once we get through that, hopefully we all feel really safe in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Stowe. And Councillor Campbell, I know you have daughters in police work, and you'll probably have some comments yourself.
The biggest comment is humbled of how polite everybody was. All the calls were very polite. Wendy was kind of looking at me funny at the last one, you know, around home after the phone rings. Who's that? Who's that? We had a lot of who's that, let me tell you, this week. But thank you for being polite, and it humbled that I can serve you, so thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just sum up, somebody else would like?
Just one thing. Can I just, as Chair of Police Services,
Go ahead, sure.
Thank Chief Dave and Summerside Police Services for all the effort they put into getting this letter to us, and for the folks this evening. I just wanted to say thank you to Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I just make a few comments here, and I want to thank the chief. Chief is one of the few that I used to work with for many years, and I know his thoughts were the same as mine. My mind was made up on this, but I was, like Councillor McFeely said, and others, you know, you can't make a comment until you get to a certain process. So I knew exactly how the chief would be thinking on this, and like I said, I worked with him for a long time, and we got to think alike when these kinds of situations. And Mr. Murchison, I know you did police work one time, and we know how the whole community would feel with this happening. And the mayor can only vote on issues. I can vote on the planning board, but when it comes to a council meeting, I can only vote if there's a tie. But I think on many issues, the citizens should know what the mayor's opinion and where he stands on an issue. So I'm making mine known tonight on this, even though I'm not able to vote, and I'm sure it's not going to be a tie, that's for sure. But I just wanted to express the same thoughts as members of council. And also we want to thank our technical services staff. This wasn't easy for them. And thank you folks for coming out tonight to be here to go through this process that we have to go through when we get a request. And we thank you for your comments, and I agree with Councillor Campbell. Everybody did made their presentation very clearly and fine. Is another hand going up here?
I just very, very quickly.
Go ahead. Sure.
Here, so we can get to the vote, but just a question for Aaron or Linda. Like other rezoning kinds of things, or discretionary use or restricted use things, there is an appeal period, 21 days. So we'll just so people understand that there is a 21-day appeal period, that anybody can appeal a decision of council to IRAC. And that's why it was so important that we made sure the process was what it needed to be to reduce the risk of those appeals. So, so thank you for your patience as we work through that. So thank you.
So the applicant will be notified in writing of the unanimous decision. Right? No, but they will. No, but I just wanted to get that in there before. So, any other comments before the vote? Do you have anything further? Councillor Adams, do you have anything further?
No, I'm good. I'm proud of everybody, how they came together, and I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman had his hand up here.
Well, the applicant seemed to be a little fraudulent that they sent to you. Misleading in that.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So, his appeal, would you use that as against it?
if he appeals, we'll just have to wait and see within the 21 days what happens. But we'll have to just wait to see. We don't want to say anything that would, how can I word this, that would make the appeal easier on the other side. Maybe that was going a little too far, but I think you got my point. Because we're standing behind the citizens who are here tonight and the citizens of the city. Anyway, ready for the vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Pardon? No. Yeah, read it again.
Maybe if councillors with a show of hands, that would make it easier.
Yeah. But
Read
it's
the
the
motion
support
to
of
see.
the recommendation.
Yeah.
You're right.
That council supports the planning board recommendation at the planning board meeting of June 7th, 2022, and that this application is hereby denied.
Okay.
Right. So that's the motion. All in favor say aye, or maybe raise your hand, except Karen.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Thank you. So thank you again. I believe Councillor McFeely, you had mentioned earlier, but how many resolutions we got to deal with tonight?
20 other resolutions.
Can we have a washroom break?
Maybe.
I'm sure
Let's
it's pretty exciting stuff.
Even though
I know.
we're live on YouTube, but can we shut things down for a 10-minute break? Okay, let's adjourn for 10.
agenda in my residence, and then they say I'm there, and then they say my name and I don't answer, right? Well, you don't have to leave Mexico.
Let me know.
Okay.
All righty. I'll be here.
Right, good evening, everyone. Call the meeting back to order. Welcome to my fellow councillors, Deputy Mayor McColeman and councillors. Councillor Adams is head of the province. She's unable to be with us presently. She was earlier. And Councillor McDougall had to go. He wasn't feeling 100%, so we had to step out. And anyway, we have Colin here from the Journal Pioneer. Welcome, Colin. And since we're live on YouTube, welcome to all of our viewers. And we have our CIO, Rob Philpott, with us. And we have our Director of Finance, Kristen. And we have our Police Chief, Dave Poirier. And our Fire Chief and a number of firefighters and guests. Welcome to our special meeting tonight. So we're bouncing around the agenda because we had a lot of items on earlier. And I think we're going to go to the fire services now at this point. So I turn it over to you, Madam Chair, or the Fire Chief, or whomever.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, and I will call Chief Ron Enman to the stand. I'll call Ron if you want to come up and you have a presentation or two to do. Thank you.
The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, everyone. Is that on?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for attending Leo Stewart's portrait presentation. Special thanks to Leo's family for being here today. Mayor Basil and Council for taking part in this presentation. Also, Summerside Fire Department members, retired members, and any members of the public. This dedication is honoring a valuable and respected member who served the residents of St. Eleanor's and Summerside for many, many years. On April 25th, 2020, Summerside Fire took part in a drive-by celebration for Leo. It was a very touching day for everyone involved. The sheer number of people that took part was unbelievable. Fire department members, school board personnel, co-workers, children, friends, to name a few. I think this showed what Leo meant to our community. Just a little history for those who aren't familiar. When an active member of the Summerside Fire Department passes, there's a portrait done, and this portrait will hang on the wall of the fire hall in which he served. As with many things, COVID delayed this presentation, so as soon as the portrait was finished and CPHO guidelines eased, we scheduled this date. A little history. Leo joined the St. Eleanor's Fire Department on January 28, 1991, and served there in Summerside for a total of 29 years. A lot of those years as a pump operator on Engine 4. Some people have the gift of making trucks perform to their maximum output. Leo was one of those guys. He was always a guy that you could count on. Being a firefighter was one of Leo's gifts, but he was also a very skilled golfer and curler, always taking part in many provincial and maritime tournaments that Summerside hosted over the years, plus representing our department across Canada. Summerside Fire Department is also well known for hosting the Maritime Fire Chiefs Conference. Many times over the years, Leo always had a lead role, but not only organizing buses and scheduling transportation to many events to larger groups, but he also drove many of the groups for shopping trips, tours of PEI, and other events. I'm sure they enjoyed the many activities that they attended. But most have said on the drive to and from these events was the most entertaining of all. Not one person would ever get off the bus that Leo was driving without a big smile on their face. Leo also represented PEI many times at national curling championships, firefighter curling championships. Summerside teams were always very popular on the team entertainment evenings, and Leo was certainly a very big part of the many skits that provided lots of chuckles for people across Canada. Always entertaining, he could take command of a large group, but on a serious note, when you were on a fire scene and had to deal with some pretty hazardous situations, he's the guy that you could always count on controlling your water flow at the pump panel. He's someone you could trust with your life. He represented our department and the province as Team PEI at 6 national curling championships with a best finish of 4th in the country during the 2015 championship held in Valleyfield, Quebec. Also during that championship, Leo was voted by curlers from across the country as the all-star skip for this championship. As a fierce competitor, the games on the ice were very important to Leo. He wore the provincial jacket with pride and wanted to do the best to represent island curlers. It was his ability off ice to bring his real passion, though. He loved meeting people, telling stories, and generally wanting to enjoy every moment. This was a side of Leo that other curlers saw and recognized him for. In 2015, Leo was presented with the Aubrey Neff Award, an award that is voted on by the players. The award identifies the curler at the championship that best exemplifies curling ability, sportsmanship, and camaraderie. Leo's teammates are here with us tonight with their curling jackets on to show how much Leo meant to the firefighter curling here at PEI and many friends that they made across Canada. This painting will hang on the wall of Station 2 where Leo served. It will serve as a reminder to all firefighters in the future of the commitment and dedication in which he served. New members will join SFD, stories will be told, and memories will live on forever. So I'd like to ask Mary to come up for the portrait presentation. And I'm also going to ask Paul Kelly, Captain Paul Kelly, and firefighter Chris Ross from Engine 4 to take part in this presentation. Both very long-serving members with Leo, and Mayor Basil Stewart and Fire Councillor Barb Ramsey. So while I've got everyone here, I already thanked everybody for attending. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. To say the last 2 years have been difficult would be a complete understatement. When we started this pandemic, we had no idea what we were up against or where we were headed. Our province was very fortunate to have the leadership of Dr. Heather Morrison and her team. In the first time in the 159-year history of our department, it was closed to the public. We had to implement new SOGs and policies to follow the CPHO regulations and guidelines to keep our members safe in the many situations that we respond to. About a year ago, I received an email from the province indicating there was an award available for community groups that have shown leadership to their communities during these difficult times. Summerside Fire is a unique group of individuals. All of our members have full-time jobs, already have community commitments, family commitments, and yet dedicate themselves to an organization that requires even more, 24/7 and 365 days of the year. So with so many unknowns in the early days of this virus, our members followed strict guidelines to ensure a continuous life safety standard to the residents of our city, but we're still unsure of the possibilities of taking possible exposures back to co-workers and family. I can't think of a more deserving group, not only willing to provide fire coverage and emergency services to the residents of our city, but also providing emergency medical coverage in some very close situations where possible exposures could be present. Not once did I ever hear anyone say anything about personal safety concerns at an emergency response. When I was contacted by the Lieutenant Governor's office that Summerside Fire had received the COVID Warrior Award, I can honestly say that I'm very proud of this group of individuals who continuously put the residents of this city before themselves. So I'd like to call up a few members of the Summerside Fire Department.
I think we can stand for this. Summerside Fire Department deserves a big round of applause from all of us.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you. And again, it was great to have everybody here tonight for this special presentation. And we still miss Leo, and may he rest in peace. Okay, we'll continue on with the agenda, and we bounced around here all evening on the agenda. Do we want to continue on, or do you want to go back, start up at tech services? I believe the planning board is finished. Is there a councillor?
I'm just a little unclear, Your Worship, the mobile sales establishment thing. I think Councillor Durand had asked for that to be on the agenda. So
Okay, Councillor Durand, do you want to start your tech services, and that could be on the agenda?
I guess I can just touch on what that item is or was or might be.
Or will be.
Or will be. When I did ask for it to be added to the agenda, I think in my mind I had it under bylaw policy review.
Okay.
Just due to the fact that it was part of the mobile food establishment bylaw.
Okay.
And how it came about to me wanting it on the agenda was just I had a vendor approach me who was interested in having a mobile food establishment temporarily, for a couple weeks and at a weekend festival, and they were just wondering if there was something that the city could implement so that they wouldn't have to apply for a license for the whole season. And I said I'd bring it to council, possibly at the committee level, so that's why I requested for it to be on the agenda. So I mean, we can talk about it, or it might be something that staff can, recommend or not at a staff level. I said I'd bring it forward, and that's why I wanted it on there. So
thank you, Councillor. Maybe a CAO might have a comment on that.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the original intent was to look at this through Bylaw Policy Review Committee and then to bring back a recommendation to Council at some point. Yeah, I'm being aware of I guess the example that's being used. I mean, we recognize that there may be times out there when vendors only want to set up shop for a short period of time, but right now there's no guidance within our bylaw that allows that. So we'll investigate it at BPR and bring back a recommendation. Thank you.
Fine, then.
That's absolutely suitable, yeah,
okay.
for sure. Yeah.
So do you have anything further under tech services at this point?
I didn't think we get on to TIC services yet.
Oh, all right.
That was planning board, but should
I'm
have
just-
been policy bylaw review.
Okay, I'm just going by the agenda, it has tech
Yeah, it's,
services next.
Like you say, I think we're kind of all over the
Yeah.
paperwork tonight. But I'm happy to get right into tech services. So we have a couple of items on tech services. They can probably be grouped as one item, but we can go item by item. They have to do with a couple of crosswalks, one at South Drive and one, I guess that would be just south of where Pope is. Was in the media a little while ago. And then the other location is down at McGee across South Drive. So I think Councillor McDougall had initiated one or both of those.
Yeah.
And he isn't present at the time. So if there's any content from management on those items, maybe we can cover them, or we can table it until Councillor McDougall's back. Whatever we would like to do.
I guess, Mr. Chair, with the indulgence of council, I know that Councillor McDougall would like to be here to speak to the McGee and South Drive item, but the South Drive crosswalk, item number 3, that was deferred until the monthly meeting of council of June 20th. We'll be having a resident come in to speak to, I guess, the possibility of having the crossing guard at that location reinstated. But I have been in discussions with the resident, and he's agreed that he'll come in on June 20th at the monthly meeting to speak to it. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So I guess that concludes our tech services portion of the evening.
Okay, thank you. So we'll continue on with the agenda the way it is. The next is police, fire, and emergency services. And, Councillor Ramsey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll just give our police chief a moment to get up in his seat, if Corey are there. Thank you. Thank you, Colin. Welcome, Chief Poirier. The first item on the agenda for police is a no parking sign for Poplar Avenue and Alum Street, and I believe that's Councillor Snow that put that on there.
Yes, we had that put on the agenda, but it has since, to my knowledge, been taken care of to some extent. Am I right?
That's correct, Councillor. It's on the work list for municipal service as we speak.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So that can be removed.
Thank you very much. Okay, so well, it's good to know that it's been taken care of. The other was Willow Avenue, and I think we've deferred that as well, but it's on there. So we are going to defer that until our next meeting. And the next one on there is Jason Tanton Drive corner. I have no idea who put that on there. No one informed me that it was you.
No, that was Councillor McDougall as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we'll have to defer that because, again, he's not here. Doesn't look like I have much going on here, Your Worship, this evening. And number 4 is a parking space request, and Councillor McCollum has that on the agenda this evening.
I just wanted to speak to it. I've already chatted with Chief Poirier as well as CAO Rob with regards to the resident who utilizes her mobility with a walker, and she's fairly reliant on in-house medical calls for blood work or anything for her condition. And in the area where she lives, if the parking spots are taken or utilized, she said that she runs the risk of losing her medical appointments. If the people that come, they can't find a spot close by, if there's anything to carry in or whatnot. And I know she also has difficulty with groceries, trying to get close to her house if all of the spots are taken. So I know that, Chief Dave, you have talked with her, and I just wondered if there is anything that could be done. I understand that it can't be designated because of, certain reasons, but is there anything that you think might be possible?
So you're right, Deputy Councillor McCollum. I spoke to her on, without mentioning her name, on a couple of occasions, and it's something we've never had a request for before. the vehicles that are parked, it's on Convent Street, by the way, they're all parked legally. They're just taking up space. And, you know, she was worried about medical appointments and taking groceries in, and how do you police something like that if you ask for a handicapped spot, you know, on the street in front of a home? I mean, when she gets home, she wants space on the street, and she also requires, like you mentioned, her medical appointments. But how do you differentiate from that? I mean, if people park there, and they're probably going to get a parking ticket if it's a handicap zone. So I'll take some advice here, but it's not easy. And I told her that. She understands that.
I think, with respect, I think one of the points, like she said, she's never complained or said anything in 10 years that I've known her as her counselor. But she said, like, there's one maybe property where they require 4 to 5 parking spaces. And if the driveway is full and they use out in the sidewalk, like, she's not questioning that, but it's hard for her to let them know if she, you know, like if she's waiting for an appointment to come and that spot is taken, then I guess there's not that arrangement where the medical people will go around the corner to park, sort of thing. They want to be close by so that they can get in and out. Same as when she gets groceries, if she comes with a taxi, it's trying to get those groceries in. So I'm just wondering, you know, like on the crossing, sometimes we have flags that people know somebody's trying to cross. Would there be anything like that that she could at least put out to let people know that she's waiting for somebody to come for an appointment to do medical work?
Well, certainly another suggestion would maybe give her a couple of pylons so she can block off that one parking space in front of her home. But other than that, and marking the street up, I don't think it's a good idea. The flag thing might work, but my suggestion would be pylons. If we get municipal service to maybe drop off a couple, maybe, and if she knows that she has an appointment or she's coming back home and needs to get, you know, we can't go to the citizens and tell them they can't park there because they park legally.
Do you think there would be any way that we could let the residents know that if they see them out there, that it's just that she has a medical appointment coming? Or, like, I don't think she's expecting special treatment, but she just doesn't know how she can make sure that it's there the days that she's having the appointments come in.
So,
And maybe I can talk to you more about that.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the parking is sporadic
Yeah.
at the most, whether it's day or night, you know, and so yes, we can talk about that.
Okay, all right, thanks, Chief Dave.
It certainly is a difficult situation, and I sympathize with her.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Didn't see. Councillor Campbell has something there, Dave.
I'm in Ward 5, and for some reason, there's been a speed bump put on.
I'm
Maple.
sorry, Councillor.
Just bring that down.
There's a speed bump that's been put on Maple, and they're calling me about it. It's not even in my ward.
Okay, I didn't put it out, so.
Be text
I didn't pick
services.
the location.
I have the names or the emails that I got.
I think I did receive that copy of the email, Councillor Greg. You, I think, did you send one today as well? I'll check it. I did get the first one you sent, and I know that I also have a resident on Maple, and I know that we're just trying to look into that right now, which it makes it difficult in a sense where when you hear from a lot of people where they're asking for speed bumps and then, you know, police services does install them thinking that we're doing what people are asking, and then people have concerns about the noise that's created from the speed bumps. It's, you know, it's a concern. It's to know what to do. But I know that it's under advisement with CAO Rob and Chief.
I could certainly use it up in Craig. We had it there all last year, and they're missing it already.
Okay, we could, if you want, Greg, we could put that on, you know, the agenda for next month. And by all means, just when people put things on the agenda, if they could let me know who they are, so I know who to address when we get police services here. It makes it a little easier. And so if that's everything regarding police services, we can let Chief Dave go home. I'm sure he's had a very long day. And if that's everything, I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. So is that all we have on the police department?
On
What about-
special council meeting now, or special amendments. 19.
Can I make a suggestion? And maybe we'll get through them quickly anyway, but I was just wondering, since there's some folks here, I think like starting at item 9 and down, we have some applicants that are
Right.
here waiting, if it was okay with everybody, if we wanted to kind of skip down to them.
Friendly amendment?
Another friendly amendment. It starts at 9, I think, for 395 Brophy, and then there's 4 of them, and then there's 4 for Cedar.
So we're calling this, we're in a special council meeting now again.
9 is 075, Brian.
Okay, we'll call a special council meeting to order and move into those items. Thanks, Chief. So what item do you want to start with, Councillor McPheely?
COS 22-075.
Okay.
And again, with your permission, Your Worship, I'll remain seated, not only because we're closer to the mic, but there's 19 of these to do, so we'll go through them. So we will begin with Resolution COS 22-075. Moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey, whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside to amend the future land use for a portion of PID number 322339 from parkland use to residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with Section 5.7 of the Zoning Bylaw, Council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. Conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements, impact from the development on pedestrian vehicle access and safety, and on public safety generally. Compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Impacts on the city finances and budget. Other matters as specified in this bylaw. Other matters as considered relevant. Be resolved that official plan amendment 125 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be formally adopted. And Schedule B is attached to Your Worship. And I'll read that into the record. The official plan amendment 125 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it in Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for a portion of PID number 322339 is shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan is designated as residential land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation of parkland under use under the City of Summerside official plan, and there's a map there of the subject property. And so this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting on May 24th, 2022. Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by whom?
Seconded by Councillor Ramsey.
Well, the resolution, all in favor say aye. Contrary nay?
Nay.
Pardon? Sorry. 2 nays. Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Campbell. And so it was a 4-2 vote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the next? We have voted. Yeah. The next resolution, COS 22-076. Again, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, and seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. These will all be the same. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside to amend the Parks and Green Space Plan for a portion of PID number 322339 from parkland use to residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan. Whereas in accordance with Section 5.7 of the Zoning Bylaw, Council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. Conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical service, city parking, and parkland for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Impact from the development on pedestrian vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally. Compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Impacts on city finances and budgets. Other matters as specified in this bylaw. Other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that Official Plan Amendment 127 to amend the City of Summerside Official Plan be hereby formally adopted. And I'll read Schedule B into the record. The Official Plan Amendment 127 to amend the City of Summerside Official Plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under the authority vested in it in Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The Parks and Green Space Map amendment is to delete a portion of Tower Street Mini Park designated as 140 on the map.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by
this-
Councillor Ramsey.
And this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting held on May 24th.
Okay.
Your Worship.
All in favor, say aye. Country nay.
Nay.
4-2 vote. Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Campbell, nay. Other councillors, yes. Your floor is still yours.
COS 22-077. Moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment to a portion of PID number 322339 from Parkland T zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 126, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at the council meeting held on March 11th, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. Conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of the existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking, and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Impact from the development on pedestrian vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally. Compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, heritage resources. Impact on city's finances and budget. Other matters as specified in this bylaw. Other matters as considered relevant. Be resolved that zoning amendment 126, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is hereby declared as read a second time. And I'll read into the record zoning amendment 126, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under the authority vested in it in Section 1819 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning of a portion of PID number 322339, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of Parkland P, and the map showing the subject property is attached, and this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting on May 24th, 2022, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Country nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Just for the record, Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Campbell, nay. Others, yes. And Councillor Adams is not online right now. No. Okay, motion carried.
COS 22-078, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barr Ramsey. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 322339 from Parkland P zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas the zoning bylaw amendment 126, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings the council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 126, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved and seconded. You've all heard the resolution. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay.
Nay.
Okay, same vote, 4-2 in favor. Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Campbell recorded nay votes. Continue on.
Okay, Your Worship, resolution number COS 22-079, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barr Ramsey. Whereas an application was initiated by Boys and Girls Club at Summerside, Inc. for a zoning amendment for PID number 303859 from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 130, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at the council meeting held on March 11, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of the existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking, and parklands for community development and any projected infrastructure requirements, impact from the development of pedestrian vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impact on the city's finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 130, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. And in the zoning amendment 130, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, the City Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it in Section 18 and 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 303859, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of medium-density R3 zone. And the map of the subject property along Confederation Trail is shown there, Your Worship, and this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of May 24, 2022.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried.
Resolution 22-080, moved by Councillor McFeely, seconded by Planning Board member Barb Ramsey, whereas an application was received from Boys and Girls Club of Summerside, Inc. for a zoning amendment for PID number 303859 from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 130, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 130, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried.
Resolution 22-081, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from the Boys and Girls Club of Summerside for zoning amendment for PID number 303867 from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas the zoning bylaw amendment 133, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at the council meeting held on March 11, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. I think I'll just table those, Your Worship. I think we've read them enough that people know what they are.
Yes.
I don't think it's necessary to read them into. So with that, I will say, be it resolved that zoning amendment 133, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. The zoning amendment 133, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, the Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18, Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enact as follows. The zoning for PID number 303867, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of medium-density residential R3 zone, and the map of the subject property along the Confederation Trail is shown, and this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of May 24, 2022.
Moved by Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution number COS 22-082, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, second by Planning Board Member Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from the Boys and Girls Club of Summerside for a zoning amendment PID number 303867 for medium density residential R3 zone to high density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 133, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 133, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution COS 22-083, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application for a major subdivision was received from McDuff Holding Inc. to subdivide PID number 615286 into 38 lots, shown on preliminary subdivision plan prepared by HGE Engineering Limited, dated April 15, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 3.6 of the subdivision and site development bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. And I would table those general criteria with the agreement of council and yourself, your worship.
Sure.
And move to the resolution. Be it resolved that council grant preliminary subdivision approval in accordance with section 8.5 of the subdivision site development bylaw to McDuff Holding Inc. to subdivide PID number 615286 into 38 lots shown on preliminary subdivision plan prepared by HG Engineering Inc. dated April 15, 2022, subject to the following conditions: that the developer satisfies all municipal servicing requirements, that the developer satisfies the parkland dedication, that the developer enters into a subdivision construction agreement with the city, and the map is attached there, your worship, and this bears the recommendation of Planning Board meeting of May 24th, 2022.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Councillor Snow, you have a question or comment?
Just a couple, just clarifying that they have all the agreements in place for the crossing of the Confederation Trail, right? They've been able to, and the other one is, when we talked about this previously, there was some discussion still around the parkland dedication and whether or not a park was needed in that area. So are they still in that discussion stage? Okay, thank you. And so just to clarify, if it's determined that a park is required in that area, then we would go ahead with the park. If not, they would then financially contribute to parkland dedication. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution COS 22-084.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Got to, we'll continue on, even though the stagehands are.
Stagehands are at work.
Moved by Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Did I say it was COS 22-084? Whereas Todd McKinnon is requesting council approval in accordance with section 1.3 of the licensing bylaw CS-21 to operate a mobile sales establishment at 245 Heather Moist Drive on property owned by the Summerside Port Corporation, Inc. And whereas section 13 of the licensing bylaw provides that council shall allow or refuse an application based on the following considerations: safety, desirability, impact on established businesses in the city, public convenience, and such other considerations as it deems appropriate. Be it resolved that council grant approval to Todd McKinnon to operate a mobile sales establishment at 245 Heather Moist Drive on property owned by the Summerside Port Corporation, Inc. The license is subject to paying a license fee of $500 for a non-local business as per licensing bylaw CS-21 regulations. Special events require written approval of the event organizer, submitted to the city 3 days in advance. A food health permit is approved by the province. Litter disposal containers are provided on site. Hours of operation 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Letters of permission from property owners, connection of any pipe, hose, etc. to the city system requires city approval, and this bears the recommendation of Planning Board meeting of May 31st, 2022.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution COS 22-085, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Corey Rayner at 766 Wildon Street, PID number 461103. And whereas section 8.4 of the City of Summerside Zoning Bylaw states that an accessory building cannot exceed a maximum building area of 55 square meters, 600 square feet. And whereas section 7.5 of the zoning bylaw allows for a variance to be granted after council has considered the following tests: that the hardship is due to unique physical conditions of the lot or property, including small lot size, irregular lot shape, existing building location on the property, or exceptional topographical conditions which makes it impractical to develop in strict conformity with the bylaw standards. Exceptional topographical conditions may include, but are not limited to, trees, slope of land, etc. B, that the proposed variance meets the general intent of the official plan. C, that the proposed variance meets the general intent of the zone. D, that the proposed variance would not impact negatively on adjacent properties or on the essential character of the surrounding neighborhood, including taking into consideration any comments from neighbors. Be resolved that council grant a variance of 20% to allow an accessory building with a floor area of 67 square meters, 720 square feet. And this application bears the recommendation of Planning Board meeting of June 7, 2022.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions?
Just a comment, Your Worship, we're kind of rushing through these, but just so the general public, if there's any left listening, like these are vetted and discussed and at Planning Board, so that's why there's not a lot of discussion tonight. That the questions have been asked and have been answered, and they're coming forward.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Carried. Excuse me.
So we go back to.
We're back up to number 1 or 2 or 3.
22067. These are we had jumped down to. Yeah, I think we got 8 or 9 to do here. So, resolution COS 22-067, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Caisley Limited, to amend the future land use plan for PID number 301259 from commercial land use to residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. I'll table those criteria because council have heard them many, many times. Be it resolved that the official plan amendment 134 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted. And I will read Schedule B into the record there. The official plan amendment 134 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for PID number 301259 is shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan is designated as residential land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation of commercial land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And a property is shown there, highlighted off of Water Street, Your Worship. And this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of May 31st, 2022.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions?
Yes, Your Worship.
Councillor Snow.
I guess not a question. There's going to be 3 here, all in the same area that we're discussing here. So I'll just take the opportunity now to, I guess, make a statement. I've met with all the residents around, not all the residents, I met with many residents around that area, discussed their concerns, and in turn have had discussions with the developer who's proposing what he's proposing, and has said that he was very workable to work with the neighbors, has committed to doing some fencing around so it doesn't affect the neighbors. I take him at his word. He was here and he's presented very well. And I guess I would just reiterate that we need to make sure that any of these developments don't negatively affect the neighbors, and I think that will be the case here. I hope that will be the case here. It looks like a great development. The residents in the area did have some concerns, but I think they're being addressed through the process, so
Thank you, Councillor Snow.
That's great to hear.
Okay, you ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution COS 22-068. Moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey, whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Caisley Limited, for a zoning amendment for PID number 301259 from neighborhood commercial C3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 136, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read the first time at the council meeting held on May 24th, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria, which I will again table, your worship. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 136, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. And I'll read the amendment, zoning amendment 136, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under the authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 301259, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of neighborhood commercial C3 zone, and the property 301259 is shown on the map, your worship, and this bears the recommendation of the planning board from their meeting of May 31st, 2022.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution 22-069, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Caisley Limited, for a zoning amendment for PID number 301259 from neighborhood commercial C3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 136, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days, be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 136, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you, your worship. And bear with me, we got four left. COS 22-070, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Caisley Limited, to amend the future land use for PID number 301259 from commercial land use to residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. And I'll table those once again, your worship. Be it resolved that official plan amendment 135 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted. And I'll read Schedule B into the record. The official plan amendment 135 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. Council of the City of Summerside, under the authority invested in it by Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for PID number 301259, as shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan, is designated as residential land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation commercial land use under the City of Summerside official plan, and the property is shown on the map there, your worship, and this bears the recommendation of the planning board meeting held on May 31st, 2022.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and second by Councillor Ramsey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution 22-071, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Gaisley Limited, for a zoning amendment to a portion of PID number 301259 from neighborhood commercial C3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 137, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at council meeting held on May 24th, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. And once again, we'll table those general criteria. Be resolved that zoning amendment 135, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. And the zoning bylaw amendment 137, the bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18, Section 19, the Planning Act, PRSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 137, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of neighborhood commercial C3 zone. And the map is there showing the identified property, Your Worship, and this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of May 31st, 2022.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Contrary, nay. Carried. You're batting 1,000 so far,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
We're getting them through. Resolution COS 22-072, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Gaisley Limited, for a zoning amendment for PID number 301259 from neighborhood commercial C3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 137, the bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 137, the bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Resolution COS 22-073, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Gaisley Limited, for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 301234 from medium density residential R3 zone to high density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 138, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read the first time at the council meeting held on May 24th, 2022. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. And we'll table those criteria once again. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 138, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. And the zoning bylaw amendment 138, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 301234, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as high-density residential R4 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of medium-density residential R3 zone, and the map showing 301234 is attached, and this bears the recommendation of Planning Board meeting held on May 31st, 2022, and somebody's trying to tell us something.
No, I think we just got to wave through there. They're on a timer, I guess. Okay, it's moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Yes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Yeah, I'm on the timer too. Yeah. Our final one. Resolution COS 22-074. Moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from Tyler McDonald, agent for property owner G. Morris Casely Limited, for a zoning amendment for PID number 301234 from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas the zoning bylaw amendment 138, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at 2 separate meetings of council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 138, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
And
So,
that, your worship, ends the
that's the end of the 19 resolutions? Okay, have we got anything more? I see there's a couple items for the committee of the whole. One item?
No, did that
Oh, that
before.
one is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we've gotten to the end of the agenda. Okay, while Brian still has us connected with YouTube there, we'll, pardon? While we have Brian still. Don't get mixed up with Brian, the big entertainer. Brian Highland, is it? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Snow and seconded by Councillor Drawn. All in favor?